There is a question that Egyptologists spend entire careers trying not to ask out loud. Not because they are afraid of the answer, but because the question itself, the serious, documented, evidence-based version of it, sits in such uncomfortable proximity to ideas that mainstream academia has spent decades trying to distance itself from. That asking it feels professionally dangerous. The question is this: how did they do it? Not in the vague, hand-waving way that the question is usually dismissed. Not with the answer that ancient people were ingenious and resourceful and capable of organizational feats we have underestimated. All of that is true. None of it fully answers the question: how did a civilization that, by the most generous conventional timeline, had existed in its organized form for only a few centuries built the Great Pyramid of Giza to tolerances that a modern architect using laser-guided equipment would find difficult to replicate? How did they move 2.5 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, from quarries hundreds of miles away, and fit them together with joints so precise that a human head cannot be inserted between them? How did they orient a structure covering 13 acres of desert to the 4 cardinal points of the compass with an accuracy of 0.05 degrees? And why, having apparently mastered all of this, did they leave no record of how they did it? No construction manual, no engineering diagram, no administrative document describing the logistics of the operation. In a civilization that documented almost everything, that left us records of grain inventories and tax disputes and love poems and medical procedures, the construction methodology of the most ambitious building project in human history is simply absent. That absence is not nothing. It is a specific, shaped, significant nothing. And it is where tonight's story begins. Egypt has given the world more mysteries per square mile than perhaps any other civilization that ever existed. The pyramids are the most famous, but they are far from the only ones. The deeper you go into the archaeological record of ancient Egypt, the more clearly you see a pattern that the conventional timeline of human development has difficulty accommodating. Technologies that appear without precedent, astronomical knowledge that requires centuries of careful observation to accumulate appears fully formed with no developmental record. Mathematical understanding embedded in architecture that was not independently developed in Europe until millennia later. We are going to look at 7 of these mysteries tonight. Not through the lens of sensationalism, not with the goal of confirming any particular theory, but with the specific, careful attention that the evidence deserves, evidence that has been sitting in the desert for 4,000 years, waiting for someone to look at it without deciding in advance what it means. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built, according to the conventional archaeological timeline, during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, approximately 2560 BC. It is the oldest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and the only one still standing. It stood as the tallest man-made structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. It contains approximately 2.3 million stone blocks with an average weight of 2.5 to 15 tons each, with some granite blocks in the king's chamber weighing up to 80 tons. The precision of its construction is not a matter of speculation. It is a matter of measurement. The 4 base sides of the pyramid differ in length by no more than 4.4 centimeters across a total perimeter of nearly a kilometer. The base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across its entire 13-acre footprint. The 4 corners are almost perfect right angles, deviating by no more than 0.05 degrees from true north, south, east, and west. The ratio of its perimeter to its height approximates pi to 4 decimal places, a mathematical constant that European mathematics did not formally document until the 3rd century BCE, more than 2,000 years after the pyramid was built. The conventional explanation for the construction involves tens of thousands of workers, copper tools, wooden sledges, water lubrication on sand ramps, and an organizational capacity that we accept as extraordinary but credible. What the conventional explanation struggles with is the logistics. Building the Great Pyramid in the 20-year reign attributed to Khufu requires placing approximately 800 blocks per hour, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 20 consecutive years, with no mechanical advantage beyond human and animal labor. Engineers who have run the numbers find the timeline incredibly tight even under optimal conditions. And the optimal conditions, the copper tools, the wooden sledges, the ramps leave almost no archaeological trace at the construction site itself. The ramps are particularly problematic. To move 80-ton granite blocks from Aswan, 800 kilometers away, up to a height of 146 meters, a ramp would need to be long enough to have a manageable gradient. The volume of material required to build such a ramp would approach the volume of the pyramid itself. No evidence of such a ramp exists at Giza. No evidence of its removal exists either. Something built the Great Pyramid. Something with extraordinary precision, extraordinary logistical capacity, and extraordinary knowledge of mathematics and astronomy. What that something was, the archaeological record has not definitively established. We move now from the pyramid itself to something buried beneath the Giza plateau that the Egyptian government has, at various points in the last 3 decades, acknowledged and then declined to discuss. In 1987, a joint Japanese-Egyptian research team using ground-penetrating radar surveyed the area around the Sphinx. They found anomaly spaces beneath the pores of the Sphinx and beneath the plateau more broadly, that their equipment indicated were not natural geological formations but appeared to be chambers or corridors. The Egyptian authorities stopped the survey before it could be completed. In the 1990s, seismic surveys conducted by Boston University geologist Dr. Robert Schoch and other researchers found similar anomalies. Dr. Schoch's work on the Sphinx itself produced a finding that has never been satisfactorily refuted by the mainstream archaeological community. The weathering patterns on the body of the Sphinx are consistent with water erosion, not wind erosion. Water erosion of that depth in the Giza region would require the Sphinx to have been built during a period when Egypt received significantly more rainfall than it does today, a period that climatologists place at approximately 1700 to 5000 BCE, 2,000 years before the conventional date of construction. If the Sphinx is older than conventional archaeology believes, then either the civilization that built it is also older, or it was built by a civilization that conventional history has not yet identified. Neither conclusion fits comfortably into the existing framework. This is Grimveil Epoch, where forgotten stories resurface. Subscribe, and like the video, don't miss what rises next from the darkness. The third mystery is perhaps the most technically specific, and therefore the most difficult to dismiss. The Dendera light is a relief carving found in the temple complex at Dendera, Egypt, dating to approximately 50 BCE. The carving depicts what appears to be a large glass bowl containing a serpent, an image that, when viewed without the assumption that ancient Egyptians could not have had knowledge of electricity, looks remarkably like a modern incandescent light bulb with a filament. Inside a similar vessel in the same carving is what appears to be a lotus flower from which the serpent emerges, an image that some researchers have compared to the representation of a cathode tube. The conventional explanation is that the carvings are religious symbolism representing the emergence of light and life from the primordial waters of creation. This explanation is archaeologically grounded and not unreasonable. What makes it less than fully satisfying is a separate piece of evidence. The Baghdad battery, discovered in Iraq in 1938 and dating to approximately 250 BCE, is a ceramic pot containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod, a configuration that, when filled with an acidic liquid such as vinegar or grape juice, produces an electrical current. Replicas have been tested and confirmed to produce voltage. The conventional explanation is that they were used for electroplating, a process that requires electrical current. If a civilization in the ancient Near East had knowledge of electroplating using a rudimentary battery, and if the Dendera carvings depict what they appear to depict to engineers who have examined them, then the possibility that ancient Egyptian civilization had some understanding of electrical principles is not science fiction. It is a hypothesis supported by physical evidence from 2 independent archaeological sites. The absence of written records describing this technology is cited as evidence against it, but the absence of written records describing the construction of the Great Pyramid is somehow not cited as evidence against its conventional construction story. The fourth mystery takes us underground. Beneath the pyramid complex at Saqqara, the ancient Egyptian city of the dead, there are tunnels. Long, precisely cut tunnels connecting a series of enormous granite boxes. The Serapeum of Saqqara contains 24 of these boxes, each carved from a single piece of Aswan granite, each weighing between 70 and 100 tons. The boxes are cut to a precision of 0.002 millimeters, a degree of accuracy that requires, by modern engineering standards, diamond-tip cutting tools and computer-guided machinery. The surfaces inside the boxes are flat to within microns. The boxes are so precisely made that the lids, which weigh up to 27 tons, fit so tightly that the interior is effectively sealed from the outside atmosphere. The conventional explanation is that they were sarcophagi for the sacred Apis bulls. No bull remains have ever been found inside them, though some researchers note that mummified bulls have been found elsewhere in the complex. How these boxes were made, how any pre-industrial civilization cut granite to a precision of 0.002 millimeters, then transported boxes weighing up to 100 tons through tunnel just barely large enough to contain them, then lowered them into position, then lifted 27-ton lids onto them has not been explained by conventional archaeology. Engineer Christopher Dunn, who spent decades analyzing the machining marks inside the Serapeum boxes, concluded that the tool marks were consistent with rotary cutting tools operating at high speed, not with copper chisels and stone abraders. His analysis has been disputed. It has not been refuted with an alternative explanation for the machining marks he documented. We move now to the sky above Egypt, to an astronomical alignment that sits at the center of one of the most significant debates in Egyptology of the last 30 years. In 1983, Robert Bauval, a construction engineer with a deep interest in archaeoastronomy, noticed something that has since been verified by multiple independent researchers and contested by others with equal intensity. The three pyramids of Giza, Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure do not form a straight line. The smallest of the three, Menkaure, is offset slightly to the left. This offset exactly mirrors the alignment of the three stars of Orion's belt as they appeared from Earth in approximately 10,500 BCE. This is not a coincidence that can be easily explained away. The probability that the offset of the third pyramid and the offset of the third star of Orion's belt would match by chance is astronomically small. Bauval's Orion correlation theory has been challenged on technical grounds primarily relating to the directionality of the correlation, but the basic astronomical correspondence has not been refuted. What it implies, if taken seriously, is that whoever designed the Giza complex was not simply building tombs. They were encoding astronomical information into the landscape specifically, information about the position of the stars at a date more than 8,000 years before the conventional construction date of the pyramids. Why would builders in 2560 BCE encode information about the sky in 10500 BCE? And what does it mean that the Sphinx, if Dr. Schock's weathering analysis is correct, was also built around that same earlier date? This is Grimveil Epoch, where forgotten stories resurface. Subscribe, and like the video, don't miss what rises next from the darkness. The sixth mystery is one that most people who visit Egypt walk past without noticing. At the Temple of Abydos, one of the oldest religious sites in Egypt, there is a beam, a structural element in the ceiling of the hypostyle hole on which a series of hieroglyphic carvings have been painted over and partially obscured. What remains visible beneath the degraded paint has been photographed extensively and examined by engineers, archaeologists, and independent researchers. The carvings appear to depict objects that look remarkably like modern vehicles and aircraft. A helicopter, a submarine, what appears to be a modern aircraft, what appears to be a tank or armored vehicle. The conventional explanation is pareidolia combined with palimpsest, the natural human tendency to see familiar shapes in ambiguous images, applied to carvings that were painted over and partially degraded in ways that created accidental resemblances to modern technology. This explanation is entirely possible. It is also entirely possible that the people who created these carvings were depicting something they had seen or imagined or been shown, and that the resemblance to modern technology is not coincidental. What is certain is that the carvings are real, they are ancient, and they have not been satisfactorily explained in a way that accounts for all of the details simultaneously. The seventh and final mystery is not a physical object or an architectural achievement, but a text. Specifically, the ancient Egyptian creation mythology, which describes the primordial mound of creation rising from the waters of chaos, the division of the earth and the sky, the emergence of life and consciousness from innate matter, and the role of divine intelligence in the ordering of the universe. This mythology is not unique to Egypt. It appears in different forms in the creation stories of Mesopotamia, of ancient India, of pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, of Norse mythology, of the earliest texts of ancient China. Different cultures on different continents with no known contact with each other, describing the same fundamental sequence of cosmic events in the same fundamental order. Either this is coincidence, or it is the independent documentation of something that was actually observed, a cosmological event, a catastrophic reshaping of the world, an encounter with something that multiple civilizations felt the need to record in their founding stories because it was real. The ancient alien hypothesis, the idea that some aspect of ancient Egyptian technological and astronomical knowledge may have been influenced by contact with non-human intelligence, is not evidence-based in the sense that evidence has been produced that directly confirms it. What it is, in its most rigorous form, is a response to a genuine problem. The problem is that the evidence we have does not fit neatly into the story we tell about human development. That the precision of the Great Pyramid, the water erosion of the Sphinx, the machining marks of the Serapeum, the astronomical encoding of Giza, the apparent technological imagery of Abydos, and the cross-cultural consistency of creation mythology all push in the same direction, toward a history that is older than we acknowledge, more sophisticated than we have given it credit for, and connected across civilizations and centuries by something we have not yet identified. We are not saying ancient aliens built the pyramids. We are saying that the evidence does not fit the conventional story, and that the gap between what the evidence shows and what the conventional story says is large enough, and specific enough, and persistent enough, that it deserves to be taken seriously by anyone who is genuinely interested in what actually happened in the ancient world. Egypt is the oldest conversation humanity is still having with itself. The pyramids are still there, in the desert, precisely where they have always been, oriented to within 0.05 degrees of true north, their joints so tight that nothing can pass between them. The Sphinx faces east across the plateau, its weathered body carrying the record of a rainfall that, by the conventional timeline, should not be there. The desert keeps its secrets with extraordinary patience. It has been keeping them for 4,000 years, perhaps longer. New dark history every week on Grimveil Epoch. Subscribe so you never miss the next story that the official record tried to leave behind. The buried do not always stay buried, and the stones have been waiting a very long time for someone to ask the right questions.